Hello, Earthlings. I'm Ian.
And I'm Sven, and we are Heads in Jars, playing Nazi zombies and talking about your world.
We are
controlling our collective destiny as a people. Let's get their money out, and we can fight over the issues. I'm all for that.
This is the funny thing about what left and right really means. I completely agree. Billionaires, millionaires dumping tons of money to manipulate the is a bad thing. What I'm talking to specifically, when I'm saying kissing the pink ring, if you want to make the argument that they're donating money to his his inauguration and things like that, let's have that conversation. But Donald Trump, if this
but he have that conversation. There's no real conversation to have. It's just, again, it's a fact. This money has been deposited into Trump's coffers. There's no conversation to have. Like, conversation with why they're doing it, what it means. Well, yeah. They're doing it for obvious reasons, to gain favor with Trump, because money talks.
Yeah.
There's no conversation to have, Tim. And don't say, we can have the conversation, but... No, that's such a shitty... I'm going to use huge, massive air quotes so you can't see, debate tactic.
Mark Zuckerberg trying to placate or please Trump, and he's settling with, I will let people speak. That's Trump accepting neutrality. If Zuckerberg...
I won't let people speak. It's... The fact checking that kept lunatics away is gone.
Yeah.
Was actually going to try and play this game that we had seen over the past 8 years or longer with Facebook, he'd say, you know what, we're going to bring on 10 new fact checkers, the Daily Wire, Breitbart, National Review, and we're going to give them preference, and we're going to remove PolitiFact and Pointer's authority. But that's not what he's doing. He's saying, you can finally post again, which it's funny because when he basically downranked politics, he nuked his own platform, and it made most podcasters abandon the platform as a place where you...
Has Meta been nuked? Is it struggling? I really don't know too much about its internal...
I don't know either. Like...
It still seems to be very, very strong, and obviously they're talking about it in a very... Like, it's a very important site, so it can't be... It can't be nuked, so it can't be that bad. I mean, it didn't turn to dig. So,
yeah, it's still very much relevant.
Yeah.
Couldn't do business anymore. So, again, you want to talk about
I don't know
money,
what you guys... I
all
don't know
that, I
what world
agree.
you live in. All my friends have posted about Palestinian issues, about Gaza, the suffering in Gaza and the West Bank. Where my family lives in the West Bank under occupation, our stuff is banned. We get thrown off the platform of Meta, of Facebook, of Instagram. Let's not play games here. These are oligarchs who have a financial motivation for what they're doing. Tim, you know that. Dave knows that. Karen, we all know this. We're on board. What are we going to do about it? We live in a new Gilded Age with the robber baron. Are we going to rise up with a backlash and have reform? Or are we going to let them control our collective destiny and be their serfs? That's our question. Question.
Well, I think Dean touched on something that's very important. And Piers, you know, I've said this like so many times on your show that oftentimes people think of the divide as left and right, but the reality is usually that the divide is between the regime and the dissidents.
Yes.
And so the point that you're making, Dean, about if you are critical of the current policy, which is to support Israel in their war in Gaza, then yes, then you're on the other side of the regime on that issue. Mm-hmm. And same if you're against supporting the war in Ukraine. But look, so it became, look, the thing that was the worst year of censorship was 2020. Okay. And in 2020, I mean, this is when I had a private group for supporting listeners of my podcast on Facebook that got completely nuked because you literally, I remember the video that got nuked were two doctors. This was in April of 2020 who were talking about how the ventilators were killing people. And this wasn't like an accusation of a conspiracy. Nobody was saying that like doctors meant to be killing people. And of course, the doctors realized they were right and ended up changing course. But the point is that it had nothing to do with left or right. It was like, we're doing lockdowns. This is the policy of the regime. And if you're out there opposing this policy, you're going to be silenced. And
you mean the policy of Donald Trump?
Right, exactly. People forget, 2020 was very squarely Donald Trump's year still. The COVID outbreak was squarely in Donald Trump's presidency and under his direct intervention. Him boasting about the vaccine, that's on record. He was so excited to tell everyone about that.
Until his base turned against him. For that.
And then we talk about weather vanes.
Yeah. He took his greatest...
the shittiest, most orange weather vane.
Yeah, took his greatest accomplishment of his presidency, and then his own base poisoned it, so he had to abandon it. It's really sad. But, I mean, and then also one other thing. The lockdowns this was not a federal edict. I mean, like, for the first thing, like, the government was like, all right, you had 2 weeks to slow the spread. It was the governors everywhere that kept this in place, blue and red. Now, you could have the argument that some red states opened up faster than blue states, and some blue states really took a long time to get going.
But they all did
California.
it, basically.
But, yeah, they all did it. And if you want to talk about a federalized response to COVID, Trump did a horrible job by letting the states fucking compete against each other for PPE and all these other really precious materials.
Super. It's awful leadership right there, to let your constituents like battle it out for resources to save lives. What kind of dystopian future was he creating there for us?
Yeah.
Like what, the PPE games instead of the Hunger Games?
The one point that was made earlier about misinformation from Iran or China or any of these things, I'm a libertarian. I don't like governments much anywhere. And all of them are guilty of misinformation and lying. But the point is that we were talking about our government, who were the ones involved in the misinformation, claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. That was the lie.
Yeah.
And so you've got the
Ironically, that was the disinformation.
You're being willfully naive. This is a worldwide information war going on with these companies. And Tim knows this. Tim knows this. Like they are infected everywhere. Many years ago, I wrote a column about 7 years ago about TikTok and the possible national security issues surrounding it. I got pilloried for it, anti-China, this and that. And I said, well, it makes sense that they would come here because they have this massive landscape in the United States that is so porous and so easy to manipulate and so easy to enrage whatever side you're on, that it's almost laughable how much we're all the victim of in many ways of our incredible innovation, right? And the problem is the people making the decisions. Like, you can debate all you want whether he should have taken Trump off of Twitter during the things. Everyone has a different opinion. But the fact of the matter is, my issue was 2 people made that decision in our country to do that. Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey. 2 people got to decide something that is which is a much bigger debate that has to happen within our country. It is about the concentration of power at the top. And right now, Elon Musk is paying $2,000 a night to be 300 feet away, or probably more, from Donald Trump. We can't do that. We can't have the same thing. They're all handing over money, and Donald Trump likes money, apparently, from what I've read. And they're able to access and get what they want, which is no ability to have privacy laws to protect consumers, no ability to have new antitrust laws, for example, that are critical to creating innovation so both conservatives and liberals can create new media companies. They can quash us because there's so many laws that aren't passed. And let me just say, there's one industry in this country, in a capitalist society, that has everyone else has to have some regulation, some of it good, some of it bad, but every other one has to have it, except for the tech industry. There's exactly 0 laws on the books about them, and the law that exists protects them from immunity.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good point. Thinking back to, like, we rail against banks for the bailout, and we rail against car manufacturers for their bailout. Kind of forget how much the tech industry got bailed out and is currently being subsidized by the United States. Got agricultural subsidization, we have defense spending subsidization, and we have tech subsidization. And tech subsidization crosses every single other border. It's subsidized because of its importance in agriculture. It's subsidized because of its importance in defense. And it's subsidized because of its intrusion in our entire lives. There's no part of our lives that aren't coupled with technology and tech companies. Apple is a great example of this. They have more cash on hand than most countries do.
Yeah.
Just think about that. They have trillions of dollars just cash, not valuation. No, this is in their coffers. It's crazy to think about. And they are very much protected. Like we talked about, Facebook isn't treated the same way that a publisher is. and it is up to the companies themselves to moderate themselves. And we always make we always think it's laughable that an oil company will police itself and will clean up after itself and will regulate itself, so we don't need these regulations. I think that's laughable. You can use that same logic on tech as well. Say that they don't need the regulation is also laughable, because we know they're only looking at their own company's self-interest, their shareholder responsibilities, as they'll call it, and they'll use that money to gain access to Trump, so that, like you said, trust laws aren't passed. Google's antitrust kind of stuff can't be broken up.
Yeah, it's very true. But to push back slightly on the more Section 230 aspect of this conversation, I don't see any good ways of moderating what people say online. Because, I mean, like, we've had this conversation before, and I mean, the only way that I say that you could that you could get a semblance of this balance is absolutely get rid of all anonymity on social media. So everything you say is what it is tied directly to you, without something that drastic.
And I don't like that because I think that privacy is an important right to protect as well, and that removes privacy from the equation. I don't have an answer or anything like that. I'm just... It is interesting. We talk about the regulation of other things, but again, to your point, it's a lot easier to regulate what a company can't spew out into the environment.
Yes.
Like you can say these chemicals are toxic to the waterways and to people and to life. You may not pump them in there.
And it's an easy thing to show to the public. We have a direct corollary from this company dumping this type of radioactive waste into this landfill, causing all their workers to get sick and eventually die. Like, that is very easy. You can prove that.
Yes.
Super concrete.
You can say the concentration of lead in the air in this area is dangerous. Therefore, we have to remove lead from gasoline. These are numbers that you can point to. Regulation is a very liberal proposition recently for some reason. I remember the original Trust Busters were definitely Republicans. You guys sort of seem to have forgotten about that on the right.
But like showing the damage of social media,
it's a lot more difficult to quantify. Like how many? Yeah, how do you say this? It can't be like this chemical is bad, so remove it.
Yeah,
it's a lot more subjective. It's not scientific to say this speech is bad, therefore it must be removed.
Yeah. It's such a nuanced and hard thing to.
So I'm curious if she has any guardrail proposals.
I hope so, because right now she's speaking a lot of truth.
Yeah, I like her so far, for the most part.
Can you imagine? I'd like that. I'm sure Piers would like it. Rupert Murdoch would love it.
But you opened this by saying I was being naive, and then just totally sidestepped my point.
I think you're naive.
Other things, some of which I don't
I think you're naive that foreign governments see this and think candy fucking stores. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can say that. They say candy store and look at our country.
That still has. How is that naive?
Word,
I didn't argue. But I'm still missing the naivete. I didn't argue with that.
Is that we are in an information war with these countries, and if we don't understand that we have to have given that the U.S. Companies are at the center of it, we have to have some way for our government and these companies to talk to protect U.S. interests, at least in the
yes. But you're dodging my point. You're dodging my point, which is that the American people
I'm sorry,
are
I got
also
lost in
information.
But go ahead.
Burn.
Oh, that was brilliant. I love that. Got lost in ivermectin.
All right, fine. Well, my point is that American people are also in an information war with our own government, and that has actually been the most dangerous enemy in this information war over the
money is still the most dangerous element in this information war. The government doesn't control the Washington Post. The government doesn't control LA Times. The Washington doesn't control New York Times. Big money controls all of those publications, so they decide who gets endorsed, what cartoons get published, what op-eds are allowed,
what cartoonists won't get published and then end up quitting.
Yeah, this comes down to big money versus people, right now, and the people, right or left, doesn't matter, are getting absolutely steamrolled by big money. Like, we're talking about these robber barons kind of stuff. You may have learned about it in school. They're big cartoons in newspapers portraying other industries as the bad guys. Well, guess who owned those cartoons that portrayed the other ones as the bad guys? Another fucking titan of industry who didn't want to show his competitors or his rivals as the bad guys. You know, this is no different than then. We tried to get away from it then, and now we're going back to it.
Yeah, no, yeah, this is a tale as old as time. And I mean, if you want to just go back to the founding, fathers, they all had news publications throwing slag.
They slandered each other afterwards. These are not like beatific, wonderful people after the Constitution was framed, and they didn't all just like sing kumbaya for the rest of their lives and live in this paradise they created in America. No, they fucking hated each other sometimes. Yeah. They slandered each other in their own publications. And that's why they made sure the freedom of the press was
one of the first
protected right.
Yeah, exactly. Part of the First Amendment. Very important. The Fourth Estate, it used to be called.
Yes.
25 years. And so,
the most dangerous are powerful private interests that are interested in their own self-interest. The government is not it's like when the Hollywood people are fighting with each other with the Hollywood companies. You know who their enemy actually is? Apple and Amazon and Netflix, and they're fighting with Disney. What's happening is these companies occupying every single part of our world and quashing innovation that's necessary so that many more voices can be heard.
But to take it back,
I don't disagree with that.
Okay, let Dean jump in there. Dean?
One quick thing here, Piers, and to me, banning speech is not good. The answer to speech you don't like is more speech, right? You counter it. Unless it's really inciting violence, I'm a lawyer, so at that point where it really is call for violence, that's criminal. What we need in America is to invest in critical thinking skills so Americans on their own don't believe something just because they like it.
Yes.
Okay, I absolutely agree. Critical thinking skills, every single American could use a crash course in critical thinking skills. The problem with this argument is that it takes energy for people to have critical thinking skills. And a lot of people are comfortable in their echo chamber. Well, they'll just sit down, watch what they want to watch. They don't need critical thinking skills when they're always constantly getting reinforced in their narrative. So, critical thinking skills only get you 30% of the equation.
I think a big part of it is that critical thinking skills need to be taught and nurtured at a young age, so that when you're an adult and when you need to use that critical thinking to decide on courses of action, you have those tools, and you're less likely to be susceptible to being trapped in an echo chamber because you already have those foundational tools. You need to learn critical thinking before you need to critically think to survive, right? Just like you need to know how to make a fire before your life depends on it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I don't disagree with you.
I think we're all in agreement. Critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking, it's extremely important. Everyone should definitely think, and I'm not saying that no one, I opened up this thing saying everyone could use a crash course on critical thinking. But when it comes to breaking an ecosphere, I think that critical thinking is just one part of the equation. I don't know what the other two components are because my mind doesn't reach that far.
A big part of it is critical thinking, and you need to be exposed to other ideas. If you're only to get out of an echo chamber, you literally have to be broken out of it. If you spend all of your life, for example, at church, and you don't actually read the Bible critically by yourself, you listen to what your pastor says.
Yeah,
you are likely to take everything about it as complete fact, and you are very unlikely to entertain any other position outside of that echo chamber. Even a different church can have a different interpretation of a certain phrase or a certain parable within the Bible. You may be so close-minded because of the echo chamber. So to get out of that echo chamber, you have to be exposed to the different points of view, and you have to be exposed in a way that isn't just what they say. You have to actually see it and feel it, and that's what kind of school is oftentimes about. When you go to university, being exposed to different ideas is such a core part of it because you remove yourself from an echo chamber. Oftentimes, you move states away or countries away sometimes. So it's getting out of an echo chamber is super hard, and it requires differing opinions to be presented to you. And you also hopefully have some kind of foundational critical thinking ability.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're not wrong. But you brought up like the needs to be taught early on, and yeah, that's true. But for the hundreds of millions of people who are locked in an echo chamber now, critical thinking is not going to solve this problem. I mean, like it's not going to solve this problem. It'll help, but
educating a nation is something that happens over generations.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And we've gone away from a lot of foundational principles of education like critical thinking to more of a test-based, performance-based education system, which we pretty categorically know doesn't work well.
Yeah,
but we're so reticent to go back from that now. I don't see those who have already been brought up in this education system to not think critically, to just learn by test and learn by rote. It's hard for that to bring them out, I guess. Another thing, being exposed to new ideas. That's the one thing that you can do. And it's true for both sides. Maybe I can't say removing fact checkers can be a good thing, because being exposed to bullshit doesn't make you a better critical thinker. It may, but I get exposed to plenty of bullshit. It hones my critical thinking skills. So maybe, it'll help some people.
Yeah, it'll help some people who are already critical thinkers and have that mindset in at the fore. But everyone else,
I worry.
Indeed.
And I say that on the left, as someone on the left, my friends forward me something. I go, there are no links to any sources here. They're like, oh, it's great, though. I get it. There's nothing backing it up. And you're being misled. And some on the right the same way. We get misled because we like what we're being told. If you have critical thinking skills to go, I like this. Let me go Google it. Let me go search on any other platform. Let me fact check it on my own with some reliable sources. Then this misinformation doesn't get gravitas. It doesn't resonate. We go like, we know it's BS.
Dean,
that's my. And Carol, you don't look, Carol, today maybe no, but I think honestly, if people are taught the skills to question, then it makes it buffers it. It makes it. I have confidence in people.
These tools are addictive. These tools are addictive. They're necessary, and they're ubiquitous. And they flood the zone with so much information that it's impossible for the human brain to take it in a lot of ways.
Maybe that's why I think of myself more of a critical thinker, because I haven't actually been sort of brainwashed by the social media algorithms. I mean, Reddit is very much social media, don't get me wrong, but at the very least, it's one thing. I generally don't know anyone on it, and I can follow up on the sources quite easily. The overload of information is what I choose to be overloaded with, I guess. If I want to look at the news subreddit, I know I'm going to have a liberal bent on it. It's just the way that it's sort of set up at this point. It's gravitated towards that. But I haven't sat there and doom scrolled on TikTok, so I guess I don't have that overload of information sort of thing. Or less of it, maybe.
Yeah, a lot less of it. Yeah, because social media just sucks up so much, as she's alluding to. I mean, it's addictive. It sucks up so much time. It gives you so much information along with so much feeling. One thing pushes out the next, and the next thing pushes out that. And it takes something extraordinarily either like graphic or hateful or intensely personal for any of those memories to stand out above the torrent that is constantly getting flushed down your eyes. Yeah, she's definitely right that like the humans are not meant for this amount of information. Like, just no part of our brain, evolutionarily speaking, was ever crafted to come face to face with the fire hose. Like, this is too much information for every single person.
Yeah.
It's so super.
I don't believe it's impossible for the human brain to take things in. I think if you teach people, if people want to learn, if they want to question, if they're like, nope, I love it, I get this, whatever it is, Truth Social or a liberal posting, and that's it, that's life, you can't reach them. My question, look, I don't want to agree with Maga. I don't think we should all agree in America. I think we should debate in good faith and passionately.
Okay, debate in good faith. You just kind of hit the nail in the head. They don't debate in good faith because you have to dispel 1,000 fucking lies before you can even get to your first kernel of truth that you want to expose them to. So, like, no. Like, I'm sorry. Your premise is flawed, bro.
His premise is only flawed because he said he wants
wants
people to do that. So I want a lot of things too. And I agree. I want people to be able to argue in good faith. I want our politicians to argue and negotiate in good faith. And I know that's not the case either. Or hasn't been for most of my political consciousness. I mean, I'm talking 2008 and onwards. The Republican Party really shifted, and I'm not going to say it was tied explicitly with Obama's inauguration, but sometimes causation is causality, and him being elected created a seismic shift in the way the Republicans did politics and created an even more divided us and them mentality in Congress.
I haven't studied as much, and I was too young to really, especially at the beginning of Obama's terms. So I'm not quite sure how much the change was, because
well, Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader at the time. This is all you have to really know to get a good perspective on it. Is he made his goal as Senate Majority Leader that no Democratic Obama-backed legislation would pass. He was the party of no.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to ever get on board with a politician that just says, because of who you are, no, forever and always. Especially, politics is grounded in compromise. Yeah. Functional politics, I should say. What we're getting right now is less than functional.
Yeah.
Because there's no compromise. Because the only people that are willing to compromise are Democrats. Democrats will try to reach across the aisle, and what does a Republican do? They will negotiate in bad faith. You can look at it at the ACA, the Obamacare, American Care Act, that Republicans love in that name and not in the other. Go figure. Mm-hmm. The Democrats conceded many, many points over and over again to the Republicans. They removed single-payer options. They removed some protections. They increased the role of the insurance in the general care package. And every single time they did that, you would expect one more Republican to give them the vote. At the end, it was 100% on party lines. So it didn't matter that Democrats gave up a lot of the foundational parts of that package. It generally was completely downvoted by Republicans and only supported by a few moderate Republicans and the Democrats. That's the only way it passed. And it was all for naught, because you all want to get rid of it again.
And Donald Trump basically crippled the ACA by getting rid of the tax penalty for not having it, thus reducing the amount of money surplus and just the cascade effect that followed.
I truly believe that some Republicans don't understand that we live in a society. They want to live in an individualocracy or something.
Yes.
There's a saying, no man is an island. They want to be an island. Like, fuck you, I got mine. That's all they all want to have, that mentality. And it's so counterproductive to progress and to being a pleasant fucking society to live in. Do you want to live in a contentious and angry world all the time? Is that your goal? Because if it is, congratulations, you can stop trying. We got it.
You're with each other. That's the beautiful thing. But we shouldn't be misled. And there are bad actors at the top who are misleading good Americans.
Okay, let me bring in.
And one of my biggest anger with Trump is on that.
Let me segue just slightly with Tim, just to Elon Musk specifically, because over here in the UK, he's been basically taking on the country in spectacular fashion, calling for our Prime Minister to be in prison, calling for the King to dissolve Parliament, which he can't actually do, backing this thug who's in prison called Tommy Robinson as some kind of Nelson Mandela figure, and so on. Now, look, I, for what it's worth, I think Elon is a genius, albeit like all geniuses, he's flawed. And one of his flaws is he's got this tremendously powerful tool now, which is his 200 million followers on his own platform. And whilst I like the fact he's let everyone come back on to X, I think that's definitely balanced things up. And I think he is genuine about his desire to want free speech to return. I am concerned that he doesn't quite understand, or maybe he does but doesn't care, just how powerful his battering ram is.
He absolutely understands. Yeah. I don't think you can call him, say he's a flawed genius that somehow doesn't understand the reach of his own platform. Please, Piers, don't insult Elon in that way. He's fully aware of what he's doing. Jesus Christ.
when he tweets things like "Free Tommy Robinson," who is, to most people in my country, an extremely insidious individual who should absolutely not be freed right now.
Why should Tommy not be free?
Well, because he's not the Nelson Mandela freedom fighter that most people in America seem to think he is. He's a convicted football hooligan who beat up a policeman and got convicted of that. He was convicted of passport fraud, trying to get into America, convicted of mortgage fraud, convicted of 2 contempts of court where he nearly wrecked trials involving the rape gang suspects when they were on trial, nearly literally avoiding justice for the girls in those cases. He's now in prison, nothing to do with the rape gang scandal, but entirely to do with his defamatory conduct towards a 15-year-old Syrian refugee boy, who he first of all defamed, trying to make him the villain of a video where he'd been bullied. This ended up with the Syrian refugee boy suing him, winning £100,000 in damages and nearly £1 million in costs, and the judge telling Robinson, do not repeat these lies. And then he repeats all the lies in a movie that he produces as a so-called journalist, and he goes to prison for contempt of court, which he knows he's committing. So on every level, you can agree with his message about the rape gang scandal, where he's been right, like a lot of people, but you can also think he's about the most despicable messenger imaginable.
Okay, I really am looking forward to the equivocation that Tim is about to unleash, being like, all this shit is okay because of this.
I'm going to have to look this up real fast.
Tommy Robinson.
Sorry, guys. I'm not very familiar with this, and this seems like it's pretty morally charged as well.
Definitely not that.
Here we go. It's probably this dude here.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Wow. His last name is Yaxley Lennon.
Nice.
Anti-Islamic campaigner, one of UK's most prominent far-right activists. Since 28 October 2024, he has been serving an 18-month prison sentence for contempt of court. Okay. I mean, contempt of court is definitely a real thing, and to be in contempt of court isn't an accident. You don't accidentally become in contempt of court. You do something that the court has told you not to do. So, clearly committed that crime, at least, or, you know, if it backs up what Piers just said.
Yeah, Robinson served 4 prison terms between 05 and 19. 4 separate prison terms.
Yeah, so in 2013, illegally entered the United States using a friend's passport. Okay. Again, I think we would all agree that's a crime. Yep. 2018, he violated a court order by publishing a Facebook Live video of defendants entering court. Prior to sentencing, he appeared on the American far-right website InfoWars to appeal for political asylum in the U.S.
Naturally.
In 2021, he was subjected to a 5-year stalking prevention order for harassing journalist Lizzie Diarden and her partner. In 2021, he was found to have libeled a 15-year-old refugee at a school in Huddersfield and was ordered to pay £100,000 plus legal costs. After breaching an injunction about repeating the libel, Robinson was sentenced to 18 months in prison. And he's bankrupt too. Oh, he admitted gambling away £100,000 and declared bankruptcy. Wow. He owes an estimated £160,000 to Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Wow.
Oof.
He owes the region £2 million to his creditors and is the subject of an HRMC investigation, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs investigation of unpaid taxes. So he could be in prison for a lot longer because there's still this other stuff going on. So he doesn't seem like a very awesome person. Stalking, fantastic. Harassment.
Yeah. Definitely a sordid past. I mean, You can be right about certain parts of the rape gang scandal and also be a complete asshole in everything else that you've been publicly known for.
All right, well, that gives me a little bit of backstory here.
So we don't believe Mrs. Lincoln, how is the play?
This is the challenge.
Right.
We don't believe you because for decades...
You don't believe me? What have I said that's wrong?
They're facts, Piers.
Hang on, Tim, just to be clear, which part of my rant is untrue?
Oh, this is going to be brilliant.
Let's watch some fucking double speak. He's about to swallow his tongue. It's going to come out his butthole. I can't wait.
I mean, he already started saying that we just don't believe you.
Yeah.
So let me explain, not that I said you were wrong, but why we don't believe you.
Whoa, wait. I'm sorry. Let me explain why you're not wrong, but we don't believe you. Like, these are 2 contradictory statements.
It's like I'm going to it's like denial. It's like you just found out your husband got murdered. You're not wrong. I just don't believe you. He's still clearly coping with something.
Yes.
What a fool.
Because how long has it been going on in the UK? These grooming gangs were being covered up. As the Telegraph reported, it was covered up to present the image of successful multiculturalism, where fathers were being threatened with arrest. Then you come to me and you say all these things about Tommy Robinson, and I tell you this. Maybe you're right. I have no idea. I'm not from the UK.
What does that have to do with anything?
He was convicted in a fucking court. I mean, like, the UK is not the American justice system. Yeah, I'll grant you that. It's a whole different thing. But the criminal court in the United Kingdom is still very superb. It is very, I mean, like, the standards
very, very
are
first world. It's not like some kangaroo court in Ghana.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about some common ancestry, shit like that, all our fucking common law starts in fucking England.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, they're the template that we based everything on, basically. Like, bloody fucking hell.
I'm seeing this story that's been bubbling up for some time now about how your country allowed little girls to have their bodies to be... I can't even describe the things that came out in those transcripts.
It's despicable,
because
yeah.
Even though we're uncensored. No, despicable is an understatement. It was torturous, atrocious.
I agree with you.
For government. So when I see Elon say something like, this country is... the government of this, covering this up, the police covering this up...
He's right.
I'm sorry. And right. So when I see Tommy Robinson in the United States, and again, I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm saying we don't believe that the attacks against Tommy are all entirely based on he's a bad guy who did bad things. You may be right. I don't know. I'm not from your country.
I mean, okay, stop saying I don't know. I'm not from your country, because if you say you don't know, then you don't have an argument. Like if I went to, I don't know, a debate between two people, I just kept saying, I don't know, but you're wrong anyway, that's not credible. Like, you're literally removing your own credibility before you make an argument. Yeah, everything you're saying is completely pointless.
Yeah, this is sort of akin to being like we're going to have a debate on gravity. I don't believe you that gravity exists because I can't see it, but I believe the effect.
Yeah.
Or that I believe that you believe it.
Yeah, I believe that you believe it, but I don't believe it.
Yeah.
What makes your feet stick to the ground? God and magic.
I see as your country covered this up. The things that were done to these little girls, I'm going to say it. They put a pump in the anus of a 12-year-old girl to expand it so multiple men could rape her.
Which is super, super, super fucked up.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
What the fuck?
Fuck.
And your country covered that up and then told me Tommy was the bad guy.
Two things can be true at the same time, asshole.
And
goddamn.
And the country is not, and the government of England is not saying, Tommy, you're in prison because you exposed this. They're saying you're in prison because you violated a court order to a separate case that has nothing to do with this shit.
Yes. And don't say you don't live in that country, you don't know what's going on, and then tell me what's going on in that country that you just don't know.
Yeah, you just gave some very specific fucking details.
Like, you know a whole lot about anal rape of this girl, but not a whole lot about the rest of the nation? Bullshit. Terrible at arguing.
I'm just like, look, man, I don't know. But when I heard that, I said the U.S. should be sanctioning the UK or doing whatever they can to remove all of those from power. I think they deserve it.
Okay, well then, why aren't you saying the same thing about Saudi Arabia? Has he?
Oh no, he never says sanction Saudi Arabia because of anything that societally that they do. I mean, like he's given plenty of crap to Saudis and shit like that.
Dude, that fake outrage in his face and voice is what really gets me.
Yeah, like you can be outraged about this case and all those other types of things, but like it would be as preposterous as like a UK panel saying that the UK should sanction America because of like the Tuskegee experiments or something like that. I mean, like I know these two aren't like equivocal, but it's you take a bad example and then because certain bad actors are doing shit, another country is going to start sanctioning you for like this is like these two this has nothing to do with sanctions. Like the UK police have fucked up this. Like the local government, all this type of shit.
That's terrible. They should never. That's this sounds a whole lot more like police corruption, police covering up shit. I mean, that happens in the United States, and I have no doubt that it happens there too. And that is a shit that you should be raging on. Stop this weird faux moral outrage by giving graphic examples of something that of something that you have read about, that you claim to have happened in a place that you claim to have no knowledge of. Like, you can't have an argument like that. You can't have that fake moral outrage. If you want to have this conversation, you should have been prepared about it a little more than say, I don't know about your country, but I'm going to have an opinion about it anyway, and I'm not going to listen to your facts because I don't believe them. Like, no, man. No.
Yeah. For covering this up.
Here it is. He's using this girl's suffering as a way to make himself seem righteous and correct, while not offering any actual opinions with validity.
Mm-hmm. I think, if you don't mind me saying, I think you're conflating two things, and that's my point. I totally agree with everything you've just said, but I also believe that there is a completely weird misunderstanding of who Tommy Robinson is and what he represents in America, because he's managed to position himself very cleverly as this kind of freedom fighter who's only in prison.
It worked. Tim Pool's defending him.
Because he blew the whistle and all this stuff, so they've silenced him by putting him in prison. None of that is true.
Except you did silence everyone else, and I shouldn't say you, sorry, I apologize for that, but your government was actively covering this up. So it creates a plausible scenario when Tommy Robinson is locked up over and over again, and people are like, here's a guy calling out the grooming gangs, the government is actively covering
but he was convicted for different things each time.
And more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This grooming gang thing that you're talking about happened, 2017?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, so the stuff that he was initially incarcerated for, going back to 2013... Tim.
2005.
2005. Yeah, there we go. So 20 years.
But now they're imprisoning him. By all means. I don't know about his trials or what happens in your country.
All I would ask him, look, you're a smart guy.
No,
all I would ask
Piers, please. I
just think it would be reasonable for me over here in the UK to say to all my American friends, just go and look at his criminal record, see what he was actually convicted of and why.
Is it fake?
And draw your own conclusions. And then I would...
Is it fake?
What? Where does that come from?
Yeah, in 4 separate criminal cases, each one was absolutely fake. There was no, the prosecutional misconduct, was off the chart. There was so much corruption, all leading up to this, to the rape gang thing that hadn't happened at the very beginning of his story. Yeah, sure. Is it all fake? This is the shit. I mean, you don't even need to think about, you don't even need critical thinking here. I mean, any person who listens to that statement and doesn't immediately have alarm bells ringing in their mind has an IQ of single digits.
Yeah, seriously.
Hang on. Then I would say go and look at the judge's verdict in the defamation case, where you'll see a very well. It's actually worth 20 minutes of your time.
No. Okay. No. Okay, Ed, okay. Once again, for all our dear viewers, defamation is not the same in America or as it is in the UK. The standards of proof and the burdens of all this other sort of thing are vastly different. So you cannot say that doesn't work on me because he was convicted of defamation in the UK. Donald Trump was convicted of whatever the fuck in the US. These two are not in no part. I mean, I talked about a shared commonality in common law a while ago.
But they're not the same.
The way judges are appointed are not the same. The way everything is just oh my god, what a stupid argument and stupid thing to say.
Yeah, it's okay, and by his logic, any defamation suit ever in the history of the United States or the UK is instantly invalid because there was one that Trump was convicted of.
Yeah.
Because Trump was convicted of defamation, therefore, every other conviction for defamation is suspect. That is his ridiculous logic. Again, lack of critical thinking skills. I blame his parents, his pastor, and his teachers, and probably his genetics.
He dropped out of school.
Okay, genetics.
But he finished school on his own.
Because
he could do it, I don't know, quicker by himself, and then
he seems like someone who's quote unquote self-educated.
Elon Musk wants you all to do. I'm sorry.
All right, Cara.
Tim,
we don't believe you.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story as an expression
what
that
facts?
in journalism.
The fact that they pulled 34 charges.
No, he doesn't understand that she's telling him that he's doing that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're such an idiot, Tim.
There's no evidence. There is no evidence that they resisted prosecutions out of political correctness. The person who was the actual chief prosecutor has supported. No, you're well, whatever, Tim.
Well, actually, to be fair, Cara, on that point, there is a growing body of thought across the board, actually, that political correctness did contaminate the local. Well, hang on. Let me finish my point.
What is that?
Let me finish. That it did contaminate the thinking of local councillors, of the police, who clearly were corrupt in some cases, of senior government people as well, that there was a general fear that enveloped them all, that they couldn't take the action they felt they should take, because the repercussions would be they would be branded a bunch of racists.
No, I'm sorry. Like that is a huge cop out to say that the reason that all these corrupt and asshole politicians and everyone who covered this up, the reason they covered it up is because of wokeism. That's basically what you're saying. Fuck you. Mm-hmm. Anyone who believes that, you were a piece of shit, and just I don't know what other words to throw at you at this moment, but like no, like that is.
And you're also accusing all these people of being complicit, essentially, if you're Tim, in this rape and whatever the hell else he's talking about. You know,
yeah, because he's mixing up this shit with also what happened with Donald Trump too. So it's like it's hard to commentate on because you're like, wait, where is your train of thought going? Because I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Investigation by Andrew Norfolk, which I think was a terrific investigation. Yeah. They counted 14 grooming gang prosecutions. In 2022, there were 35 grooming-related convictions in Starmer's last 3 years. This is Elon doing his Elon thing, which is exactly what he does. He takes a small bit of possible problem and mistakes and puts it out, and then Tim gets a hold of it and decides and conflates 3 or 4 different things together so that, possibly you could, and there was a lake, and, it's the same thing that the Loch Ness Monster.
At least I'm my own agent. I don't get my news from Elon Musk.
Oh, yes, you absolutely do. I've seen you fucking do whole whole video things about what Elon Musk is saying and shit like that. I mean, okay, fine, whatever.
And I also know he's not a real reporter because I've seen his Vice reporting, and it's garbage.
Yeah.
When you got to start with this Occupy Wall Street stuff, dude, he was a terrible faux journalist then, and I don't see any evidence that he's improved.
No. I've seen him in real time learn facts and then forget them conveniently.
But it's just
ivermectin's a hell of a drug.
By him. I bet my guess. I always look for whatever the business grift happens to be. They probably don't much like the Online Safety Act there at Twitter. They probably that you have in Britain, which has controversies. Believe me, we have the same issue at COSA here in the United States. Lots of things you can debate back and forth over how it should be done because it's a very difficult issue around kids' online safety. And the fact of the matter is, in the United States, we protect kids offline more than we protect them online, which is really quite something. Mm-hmm. It's an astonishing situation. We overprotect them offline and underprotect them online. I've just done a series of really important interviews with people at Character AI and how kids are used. I just had the Yonder CEO where you put phones away and the deleterious effects of that. But what's happening with Elon is he has gotten a taste of power and he says, this seems to work here and I'm going to create all kinds of business. Now, one, he's not a British citizen. It's none of his business. It's none of his fucking business, first of all. He wants political power and the ability to turn into, which I said right when he bought Twitter, a modern-day Rupert Murdoch is what he's going for.
Rupert Murdoch had it on lockdown for a long time in terms of controlling many, many arms of one media empire and directing them all to say the same things. And it's really, really spooky. You can see it happen. Local Fox News channels will have the exact same script for their morning broadcasts. They'll talk about the same kind of stuff, and they'll sometimes be word for word the same. I never thought about it, but yes, Elon Musk is sort of morphing into that same level of control. I don't know how many people are exposed to Rupert Murdoch's empire. I would wager that, let's say Elon has 200 million followers. Well, that stuff gets disseminated online to a lot more than 200 million people, I would assume. I mean, I've seen posts from X on the NFL subreddit, for example. That's where a lot of the news gets posted. So even though I don't have a Twitter account or an X account, I will see news reported through X on another social media site that is referencing X. So 200 million times 10 probably.
And also, like, when Rupert Murdoch, set up his tentacle empire, he might have been like the hive mind controlling it, pushing out the narrative slowly but surely. Elon is in front of the fucking army here with a big ass flag and a halo shining down on him to let everyone know exactly what he thinks.
Yeah,
so he's a lot more point driven, be like, no, this is my, like, everything I'm tweeting, this is my opinion, these are my ideas. So when he shoves them out, everyone, like, like the source is, it's a lot less murky than it was with
Murdoch could obfuscate a lot better.
Yeah.